Hey Boston, how are we doing? Nice. This is my first time in Massachusetts, and I love what you've done with the place. If you are interested in learning some research-backed ways to motivate employees beyond pay, please give me a big, enthusiastic woo on the count of 3, 2, 1. Woo! Amazing! You've come to the right place. I'm Brie Harvey, head of market research and community for Achievers. I work with the research arm of our business, which conducts primary research around workforce trends and how organizations can build people-centric, high-performing cultures, which is what we're talking about today, and something I'm really passionate about because early in my career, I worked at a place that was so toxic that for years, every Sunday, I would think about work and feel physically ill. Has anyone ever been visited by the Sunday scaries? It's the opposite of life-giving. I became so burnt out. By the time I finally quit, I spent the next 2 years and 4 months living out of that backpack, traveling around the world contemplating what would be worse, returning to corporate America or becoming an influencer. My parents were worried. If someone had told me back then, one day I'd be voted by a group of my peers as the most likely to not shut up about work at happy hour, I don't know, I would have been able to comprehend it. But here I am, 70-something countries later, getting ready to celebrate in 2 weeks my 10-year anniversary with Achievers. Thank you. That's like the modern day equivalent of 30. And I know firsthand that when employees feel appreciated for their unique contributions, it's transformative, not just for the business, but for the overall quality of actual people's lives. Academics and organizational psychologists have been studying the impacts of recognition for decades, and most organizations have some type of formal or informal employee appreciation initiative. What's concerning, however, is despite the fact that employers spend millions of dollars on rewards each year, most employees feel like their efforts go unnoticed. Anyone here have employees who feel underappreciated? If you have the sense that your investment in recognition hasn't moved the needle on strategic outcomes, you're not alone. The theory-practice gap describes the disconnect that commonly occurs when research is applied in the real world and the results don't match up quite as anticipated. Achievers is intimately familiar with this phenomenon in the context of recognition because over the last 2 decades, we've been able to collect and analyze literally millions of data points a year to understand why some recognition programs fall flat and why others transform culture. We use a change management framework called Crawl, Walk, Run that acknowledges changing the collective behavior of a group of people doesn't happen overnight. But it's similar to constructing a building in that once you have the right resources, people, and alignment in place, the blueprint for success is actually pretty well established. Over the years, we have developed a playbook of best practices, and we know when an organization has the conditions so that they can execute on all or even most of these, those reliably end up being our happiest, best performing customers, and conversely, when things fall flat, which sometimes they do, we can pretty much always trace it back to missed opportunities from this list. These themes are underscored by research from the Achievers Workforce Institute. Today, we're gonna double click on 3 of them, but I want to be clear, you don't need achievers to get usage out of these principles. How you use a tool or a technology is so much more important than what you use. So we're going to start by addressing the importance of entering what we call the Goldilocks zone in terms of striking the right balance between high recognition quality and recognition quantity. Because if the people in your business don't know how to recognize effectively, it doesn't matter what tools or technology you have in place, you're going to be like a salmon swimming upstream until everyone understands there's a huge and important difference between praise and recognition. Praise is like a vague pat on the back that doesn't leave people with an understanding of what they did that was good. And literally no one wants more praise, not even Gen Z. Recognition, on the other hand, should contain detailed information about exactly what a person did and why that behavior matters to the bigger picture. When employees say they want more feedback, most of the time they mean they want more clarity about whether their work they're doing is correct and matters on some level. Researchers at Harvard found that out of all the things that can boost motivation during a workday, the single most important is having a sense of progress. Recognition shouldn't be reserved for big milestones and outcomes. It should be about noticing meaningful effort and celebrating the small wins that lead to big outcomes. Although there are multiple factors associated with recognition having maximum impact, specificity is probably the most important for quality, especially with leaders. If they're mistaking praise for recognition, it can actually be demotivating. Now I want to turn our attention to the role of recognition quantity, because unfortunately, recognition is a short-term need that has to be satisfied on an ongoing basis. And in fact, nothing in life works without consistent effort over time. You would never go to the gym 6 times a year and expect bodily transformation. Dentists everywhere agree, if you ignore your teeth, they'll go away. It's the same with your employees and recognition. There is a little variance in what different sources suggest is the ideal cadence, but most findings, including our own, show that it's somewhere around the monthly mark. So the benchmark we recommend is targeting 1 recognition per employee per month, but we have a lot of customers who surpass this substantially, Meyer being an excellent example, because despite having 70,000 offline storefront employees, they're regularly averaging 7, almost 8 recognitions per employee per month. And that is not because they have a big rewards budget. It's because they've done a stellar job navigating the change management around 3 key areas, which we'll talk about. Starting with acknowledging the reality that leaders and managers can't do it alone. Even before the rise of hybrid and remote work, they had exceedingly low visibility into the actual work being done. The people in your business with the highest line of sight into the 2-foot level of where work happens are the best equipped to call it out. Organizations have to enlist the help of frontline employees to call out the good work they see being done around them. Once they start seeing themselves as the unsung heroes of the people around them, once they realize how intoxicating it feels to make someone's day, what ends up happening is leaders and managers get much more visibility into the actual work happening, which provides the opportunity for them to reinforce the exact behaviors they want to see more of. When employees receive just one peer recognition per month, they're twice as likely to report a strong sense of connection and belonging. So we recommend aiming for 50% peer-to-peer recognition. The second no substitutions ingredient for reaching healthy recognition levels entails adopting enthusiastic, widespread usage of non-monetary recognition. We have a lot of examples like this, which comes from CVS, where we mapped employee engagement scores to non-monetary recognition received, and we found that when employees received just one non-monetary recognition per month, they were 43% more engaged than those who didn't. As long as it's quality, aka specific, non-monetary recognition can be an incredibly powerful way to help more employees feel seen and valued for their unique contributions at scale. So we recommend targeting 70% non-monetary recognition. An example that kind of ties some of these concepts together happened to me in 2017 when a customer asked me to do a custom training, which I try not to do because it's not my job and I'm chronically time poor, but I'm a recovering people pleaser who occasionally relapses. So of course I was happy to help, but it ended up being one of those situations where the ask went from like this to this, and I could feel myself starting to tell myself some negative stories and being kind of bummed out about my inability to set healthy boundaries. But then the customer wrote the nicest email about me to my boss's boss, and he basically copied and pasted it into this recognition. And I can still remember exactly where I was sitting in the office when I got it, because it was like being struck by lightning. Instantaneously, the saltiness I felt in my chest transformed into feelings of overwhelming elation and gratitude. I was like, I love custom trainings. What made this recognition so memorable that I'm talking about it 8 years later wasn't just because it was spectacularly detailed. It was because numerous people I care about and respect took the time to write these heartwarming comments on it. So it was the emotional equivalent of receiving over a dozen recognitions at once. It was a digital love bomb. I finally felt like an influencer going viral for the first time. My dopamine centers were lit. You don't need a big rewards budget to increase the frequency and the intensity of those life-affirming love bombs, but you do need that tribal social element. Speaking of budget, the last factor that majorly influences recognition frequency actually has to do with fostering a healthy culture around rewards. We have found one of the most effective ways to ensure that rewards inject an element of healthy gamification and not lead to distraction and entitlement is by adopting the philosophy of recognizing the journey and rewarding the outcome with frequent micro bonuses. I'm talking like in the range of $5 to $10 per recognition, which I know may not sound like much, but going back to my love bomb example, we have a feature in our product called Boost that allows end users to piggyback on existing recognitions. And in this case, I had 8 people publicly and symbolically endorse the sentiment expressed in the recognition by boosting it. So although the total take-home amount for me was theoretically only enough to buy like 1 or 2 things at Sephora, that $55 felt like a million because it was combined with the high of receiving all these adoring comments from people I love. Rewards can serve to amplify the long-term memorability of recognition, but to the brain, the real reward is feeling meaningfully witnessed and valued by the people who have the highest line of sight into our daily triumphs and struggles. So if you only leave with one thing, please let this be it. Recognition doesn't work unless it's both meaningful, aka specific, and received regularly. Ideally, that would be monthly, and you can't get there without democratizing recognition and ensuring that it's employee-led and not just top-down. The goal is to recognize the journey with frequent, meaningful, non-monetary, and peer-to-peer recognition and reward outcomes with micro bonuses. Returning to our pillars of effective recognition, if you're still with me, give me a clap on the count of 3, 2, 1. It's at least 85%. Amazing. So now we are going to shift our attention to address a few considerations for ensuring that rewards are enhancing your efforts to make employees feel meaningfully appreciated. As an employee of Achievers over the last 10 years, I've received recognition points not just for digital love bombs, but winning wellness challenges, participating in training and development, referring my friends to work here. We get like $2,000 per hire, and so I've been busy recruiting my favorite friends to work at Achievers with me, and so I've been able to accumulate a lot of points over the years, and because our rewards catalog offers pretty much anything you can imagine within an online shopping environment, I've been able to redeem for rewards that are uniquely meaningful to me. My favorite way to use my reward points is through our concierge service, which allows employees to redeem for custom merchandise or experiences. I use them to cover the cost of my hair and makeup for my wedding, as well as the alterations on my dress, my husband's wedding ring, our photographer, as well as my second look for the evening. Here I am pictured with some of my beloved colleagues who I made sure to publicly thank for being inadvertent sponsors of the wedding. We had an employee